Hey disciples, you just finished reading 1 Samuel 15, hearing the prophet Samuel say to King Saul that obeying is better than sacrifice, that listening is better than the fat of rams. Now, knowing the context of that can help a lot. The context is that God, through the prophet Samuel, told King Saul to go and destroy the Amalekites and everything that belongs to them. And so King Saul takes his men to war. They get back. Prophet Samuel is walking up, and the king sees him and runs up to him, and he's eager, he's giddy. He's like, we did everything that you asked us to do. We carried out your instructions, which means we destroyed everything. And the prophet Samuel's like, that's interesting, King Saul. Your camp sounds like Old MacDonald's farm. There's a moo-moo here and a ba-ba there. You have a noisy camp of animals. What's going on? And the king's like, the men decided to keep some of the good animals to offer as a sacrifice to God. And that's when Samuel says to the king that obeying is better than sacrifice, the sacrifice of these animals you kept. He told you to destroy them. And listening is better than the fat of those rams you want to offer. Now, we can look at what Saul did and all those things, but I think you got to get under that. Like, what is this really about? And what I think this is really about is, let me use an illustration. I brought with me my favorite item in my office, which is my Keurig coffee pot, okay? Now, I can use this thing, and I could go through all the motions. I could take off the lid to make sure there's water in there. I can open this up and make sure there's a K-pod in there and shut it. And I could push the button and nothing's going to happen. I could do all those things, and it doesn't work unless I've got it plugged in to a power source, the outlet. It's never going to let out that beautiful aroma of coffee beans unless it's plugged in. The issue with King Saul is he's not plugged into God. He's not listening to God. He's not abiding with God. He's not resting in the presence of God. In some ways, King Saul thinks that by doing, he will please God, instead of realizing that he can rest in God because God is already pleased with him. I think this is something you and I, we struggle with. Right? We think by doing, we can please God. But we will never please God until we plug ourselves into God. We remain in God. We abide in God. We rest in what God has already done through Jesus Christ. Jesus' sacrifice is the pleasing aroma to where God says to us, and I want you to hear these words, I am pleased in you through Jesus, my son, his sacrifice. And so you can rest. There's a quote out there that says the word listen has the same letters as the word silent. We're practicing silence here in these WODs, these workouts of the day. I think they're healthy because what it does is it gets us to stop, to be still, and to listen. And to hear God say to you, I am pleased in you. It's not about what you've done, it's about what Jesus has done. His sacrifice is pleasing. And you can rest. You can rest knowing I'm pleased. I pray you take some time this week to be still, to know that God cares for you, he loves you, and in Jesus, he is pleased with you.